Good morning. I want to have a discussion, and I think the discussion is rather an odd one, and yet it pertains to all things. Everyone gets it, and none seem to understand it. And so the gap gets wider and wider at the same time as it's the thing that seems to be unbridgeable. And that's why I'm not in the shot, right? Even though I've soaked up, smoked. I was gonna say smoked up. Even though I've soaked up so much knowledge, for what it's worth, it means nothing if it can't be applied. Which that's a difficult thing, right? When one knows something and can apply it, then you just do it. And I guess that's where the huge talk is of all talks that ever talked. And the huge gap of why all the books ever written have been written. And even ultimately, what comes down to why the Bible and why so many things were set up the way they are, and it makes sense 1 second, and the next second that seems to be the problem. But where's the problem and where's the solution? And though I've been through societies, the knowledge is separate from the practice. And the practice has little things in it that maybe afterwards you go and you research and then get the knowledge. But then what's the 2 and 2 to put it together if everything's so confusing? Today I always get stuck with this phrase, this occult knowledge concept, which is tied to an understanding I was given or transmitted or came up with, or whatever the case may be, 313, of the letter A, and the first phrase, the first word that I was given and understood it naturally. But what's natural, right? When it comes to the mind and thinking or understanding something is, oh, A means within. The capital A is supposedly the masculine, and the lowercase a is supposedly the feminine. 351. The lowercase a, in some occult knowledge book that I have, says that it came from the concept of a woman giving birth. Because a woman giving birth, they used to do it standing up and with their legs spread apart like they were doing squats. And so the hook on the top is a woman's head leaning over, and then the belly is the other part of the A, the round part, and then they just pretty much cut off the legs. And why is there two of everything? And why is there so many systems? But each system tries to overcome the next system, and then at the same time, the knowledge and the usage of it are totally apart, because when you're reading or writing, you don't have to sit there and sound out the words and think about what the letter or the number or whatever means. You just know, okay, it's 501. If that's a cat. How do you spell it? What's a cat? Well, that's a cat. Oh, okay. What's that? That doesn't look the same. Is that a cat? It doesn't even have a head. What's that thing sticking up? Oh, look. It looks different. There's all these different perspectives. So is it still a cat? Well, how many tests can we do to make sure it's a cat? And so words confuse things at the same time as they define them. And so this within concept has been paired with this other concept that's been trying to beat me over the head of withins apart. It adds the S on it and apart. All right. Let's go on a thought journey of what that means or can mean. And you could probably come up with 10,000 other ways of which I've already described a few of how the knowledge and the practice and knowing something, especially if you apply it, does it by itself kind of thing. Like riding a bicycle. Then once you know how to ride the bicycle, you just do it. It's within. But it's not with. It's not in. It's not apart. But trying to learn how to ride a bike or wanting to isn't with and isn't in and isn't apart either. But then this concept of together, of within's apart, sounds like trying to learn how to ride a bike and somebody trying to help you do it. But you're together. I guess is the best. So together seems to be the much better term. How do we do it together? Everything. But let's keep hammering on this phrase, within's apart. Okay. One concept I think of is like how the cats are domesticated. So if I'm calling me in, I'm in, and they're with, then they won't accept anyone else. So that's a part of others. But at the same time, if, like another thing, so a man and his wife walking down the street, and you can look at girls all you want, but then when you're with a girl, now all of a sudden you get in trouble for looking at one. There's a concept of within's apart. Another one is, so a man with a family won't defend another man's family if it puts his own at stake. But if he even senses threat to his family, then all of a sudden he'll lose his shit and put his own life and his family's life at risk if anything happens to him, based upon the concept of fear, trying to protect it. So he's within and apart from himself and others. Another way, okay, so everyone's got organs and guts and stuff. It does it by itself. But it's not a part. But all those are parts of with, and you're in there. But your mind isn't in there. But it's in there somehow doing all that stuff by itself. And the mind is the thing that's apart. but it's not apart, and it's still together. It's a paradox. If there's a problem in the body and you can feel it, then that's what's within and not already in. And that part makes one feel a part. And the problem, it's not the problem, it becomes the whole. The entire thing, the pain. But is that to say that when you go to the doctor, and the doctor can't see it, but you're talking about it, you're together. But you're with the doctor. You're in there together. And talking about the problem. And you got all the details. But it's apart from fixing the problem, and it's apart from the problem itself. But then he goes in and he looks at it. He's in your body at the source of the problem. Now, is he the whole problem? Or is he a part of the problem? A part, meaning singular, or separately, as he is another problem invading. When two people are making love, the weird thing that's funny is a lot of times you're there in an act that supposedly takes up all of one's mind and body, and there's another with you, and so much going on. But at the same time, sometimes the weird things that'll come up, you'll be thinking about the grocery list. Or what the kids are doing in the next room when you weren't fucking worried about it before you were in the middle of the act. Or now you're thinking about something else. But you're together. And you're apart. And you're consumed. But now, that's why the word whole sometimes has a W and sometimes has an H. See, this is where the word the comes into everything as a way to try to balance everything that can't be balanced necessarily. Because when it's balancing, it just flows. And that's when the within is a part, and it's all together in a flow as whole, and you're in the whole, and wholly consumed while not being consumed. Here's another one. So when banking, when you don't have any money, say your account's dry, now you're with him. Or are you out? But there's nowhere to run out to because you're still here in your body, whether you have money or not. But when you have the money, then whatever pops up, you just go do it. So which way is apart and which way is within? And what's in, especially if, for instance, you feel like you're left out because you don't have the money. And now your feeling of comfort of being within yourself is apart. But now you're totally focused because, well, now you're up for anything. the same time as you're not up for anything because it drags you down. Even though nothing necessarily changed. But then you can borrow the money. But now you're in. Now you feel totally different instantly. Now, when you're in, now does that make you apart? And so what's with? What's in? And what's apart? And where's that S come in? The withins. Ins. So, like, So when you're in a group, or say, have a playlist, each one of those is a part, and they all did their thing apart, and you made the playlist apart, and each is with and in, but now you're all together, but now it's still separate. And what's apart? If it's whole, but it's in the whole, and you are still you, and they are still they. And anyone who witnesses it is still themselves. And so where's the gap come in of especially if there's anything creative or whatever from you put with it. Where that's still you, even though it's with. But those are those the ends? But each one is separate. But when you scroll down YouTube, there's all kinds of videos that pop up. And those are all with, and they're all ends, but they're all in, and they're apart, but it's all together. And so how do they get control over everyone and the order it comes up in, and the descriptions, and the AI of deciding on how each thing wants to portray itself, and the title listings, and the hashtags, this and that. And so it really comes down to where's the fucking gap? And why would they have more control than I have? And at the same time, everyone got paid ahead of time, and I haven't gotten paid for any of my work. But most people that upload don't get paid for their work until they have enough subscribers. But anyone can pay and then have the subscribers, which shows that the number of subscribers is really just a fake number. Because how could I just give you $100 and now I got 10,000? Where'd that 10,000 come from? 10,000 people just didn't look at that. But that's with in. And now you got a part. Oh, but you paid ahead. But then that gives you the ability to monetize. But where's the money come from? When you had to give all of you and pay. And everything is built upon this separation and a lie. There's this huge gap where a few entities have control of everything. Especially if, the names of platforms, and have everyone's stuff under their roof. But who are they? You never know who they are. But then bringing up anyone in particular Oh, now is that a control scheme? When anyone can make a video, say, knocking on anyone, or do a reaction video. So where's the copyright come in? How can you copy it right if actually copying right can be called plagiarism, or what's plagiarism and what's theft compared to borrowing? So what is a punishable offense when the entire thing of YouTube is that you submit it and then they have 100% control over it and have all of you, and they get to decide. But even if they don't decide, they give a computer to decide, then you still had to give all of you. While those things that are the most divided get the most attention, especially if they're marketed. But what is marketing if not creating a monopoly based upon financial gain, which has to do with it not being about fairness and truth, or just being natural or true creativity without there having to be something behind it in order to make others choose to market you, in order so that you could get paid and pushed up the list so that you get more views when anybody at the bottom could pay for that many views, whether anybody saw it or not. And so there's an infinite amount of money, but it's being held and controlled by very few, and looks like nobody's touching anything. While some put in all of the work that everyone can gain from and get nothing from it. And those that do nothing and have nothing really to gain from it get all of the money. So the question is the balance of control. If everybody has to have the control out of their hands, but everyone has to have control and have their own hands. But if you have your hands on it, then that means you actually made it. Oh, so you're guilty, or you're innocent, or are you the creative genius? But then you would have had to submit it first, and so then everyone could take advantage. But those that sit back and observe can take everything and set it up so that they have the entire advantage without their hands in it, and they're the actual ones that are thieving, copying, and getting all the benefits. So these are some questions and just a thought-provoking conversation I wanted to share about the concept of the God of the gaps.